Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I'm a homeschooling mama to a first grader and a third grader. And today's video is going to be a little different. Number one, I am filming this before my girls wake up, so it's early in the morning. It's a little dark out. I do have my ring light on, so hopefully that isn't giving it a weird glare. I don't know, I haven't really been able to figure out how to use a ring light properly, but alas, hopefully it is not too terrible for you guys. Number two, the reason this is going to be a little different is that we are going to be doing more of a chatty brainstorming video. Normally I come to you when I've figured out exactly what I want to do with our curriculum or with our homeschool. I come to you with a plan. I come to you with a solution. This video is not going to be that. This video is going to be more me talking out my thoughts on where we go from here. And you're probably like, well, what does that mean, Mary? So if you watched any of my recent videos, you know that recently we had a major flop with our history this year. And that also means that our future plans kind of went up in smoke. And I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing because one, if it's not going to work for us, we need to go back to the whiteboard anyway, or the drawing board or whatever you want to call it. And we need to figure out what will work for us. But two, this ended up happening at a time when I was doing and still am doing a lot more research and reading and delving into Charlotte Mason methodology, and not just research, but my heart, my soul is continuing to call me back to Charlotte Mason, not just in our reading and my research, but also in practicality, what we implement in our homeschool. The things that are Charlotte Mason that we implement are the things that go really well. So I'm sitting here going, well, my 4-year history cycle, which I would consider more a neoclassical approach through well-trained mind, that just kind of blew up in my face. Maybe this is the sign I needed, the kick in the butt I needed, that I need to move forward with Charlotte Mason fully, embrace it. I love it. I don't know why I try to, stay away from it. I might as well just move forward with it. So if you watched my recent podcast episode with Ashley or my August homeschool update, you know that my heart is keeping on calling me back to Ambleside online. So this video is going to be basically me talking out what I think I might do moving forward. Again, think. These aren't set in stone plans. And frankly, I hope I could possibly get some advice or, tips from you guys if you are Charlotte Mason homeschoolers or if you've used Ambleside online. I would love any insight or tips that you guys have, because I know that some other followers of mine who watch my videos are also in kind of my predicament, what do we do moving forward? And I know that they would love to hear from other mamas who have done Ambleside online or have been doing the Charlotte Mason methodology. So with that being said, if you are sort of new to my channel, you're probably like, what are you talking about, Mary? So let me rewind a little bit, give you guys a quick preface of this is what's been going on so that we can kind of get into where we are now and where we want to move forward with. So let's take it back to last summer before the 2024-2025 school year. I was pretty solidly in the well-trained mind camp. I had been reading that book front to back. It was like my Bible essentially for homeschooling. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do the 4-year history cycle. I'm going to do the 4-year science cycle. I'm going to do everything they're saying. It felt very similar to my schooling, my upbringing. I went to at the Catholic school my entire life. And I definitely had more of a classical education. And so it resonated really well with me. It's just what I knew, right? And so that was the camp I was in. And then I ended up doing a little bit of reading last summer about Charlotte Mason. And then it just so happened that one of you amazing people on one of my videos suggested I go check out Ambleside online. It was my video where I talked about all of our literature picks for last year. And they ended up being uncannily almost the entire year one free read list. And I hadn't looked at Ambleside online yet at this point. So I thought that was wild that I had almost unintentionally picked out the entire free read list from them. And so obviously I was like, oh man, maybe this might be right up my alley. And so I started digging into Ambleside online and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks really wonderful. I think I really want to move forward with this. But I had already created all my plans, purchased all the curriculum, all the books for this past school year. And I was like, I can't drop everything I'm doing to start something brand new that I just found right before school starts. So what I did was I kind of did a little trial, a little compromise this past year to try out Ambleside online. I incorporated a lot of the enrichment subjects. Music, composer study, artist study. I brought in the Ambleside Online Year 1 literature reads. I was already doing their free reads unintentionally. So I brought in their literature. I brought in some of the history spines. I didn't bring in everything, but I brought in a significant part of Ambleside Online Year 1 with my second grader. And all of that was just going so well, so much that I actually went ahead and purchased all of Ambleside Online Year 2 books for this school year coming up for my oldest daughter, and had every intention of having my oldest daughter, who is now in 3rd grade, do the Ambleside Online Year 2 track, and then having my now current 1st grader do Year 1, because she sat in for some of the readings, but like I was going to do the other stuff that I hadn't done with her. Well, I think it was about March timeframe. Like, I think, yeah, it was March or April. I got cold feet. And I think there were a few things. It wasn't any one thing that gave me cold feet, but there were a few things. I'm going to talk about those. What gave me cold feet about not moving forward with Ambleside Online this year? Number one, I don't know what it is, but I was so wrapped up in that 4-year history cycle, the well-trained mind, doing story of the world, following the 4-year science. And even though I'd been reading all these things from Charlotte Mason about how kiddos should be doing nature study up, gentle science, gentle nature study up until 4th grade. And, it doesn't need to be a 4-year cycle. It can be a 6-year cycle. It can be a 3-year cycle. I was getting so wrapped up in those parameters I had mentally, unintentionally, and irrationally set for myself through the well-trained mind, that I just was like, I can't make this work. I can't. What am I going to do? I've got to do Story of the World. And I was planning to do Ambleside Online plus Story of the World. That would have been a complete debacle, y'all. That would have been way too much for me to do. But long story short, I let my own personal limitations get in the way, and that was one of the big things where I was like, I can't do this. I'm just not going to do Ambleside Online. On top of that, I started getting really concerned because we had been doing group studies pretty much for everything, because my littlest was a pre-K and then a kindergartner. She wasn't a full student, we would say, quite yet. So then I started getting concerned. I was like, this would be the year that I would separate them and they would do 2 separate years. And I was just like, that's going to be too much. I'm not going to be able to juggle that. Like, no way, Mary. Again, self-limiting beliefs on my end, completely my own fault that I am in this situation right now, but it's okay. We live and we learn, and that's why I'm making this video, so that hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. And then, 2 other things I remember that were kind of sitting in the back of my noodle when I was like having these feelings that just kind of like were the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. The first one was that I kept reading and seeing people talking about how it was too Eurocentric, it didn't have enough voices, and I started kind of leaning into that, where I was like, oh no, is this gonna not give my kid a well-rounded education? Am I not gonna get the real, story, all that stuff? Which, by the way, I have waylaid all these fears now, and I have found all of them to be false. So as I'm saying these to you, I now have overcome these fears, and I will explain why. So we are good. But the second thing or the final thing that was for me was, I wouldn't call us a religious family. I wouldn't call us, though, a fully secular family. But at the same point, I kind of was. I know that sounds odd, but we're kind of an in-betweener. We're spiritual, or I am at least. But I was concerned about there being too much doctrine in the literature reads, which I know is silly because history has, religion all through it. I mean, you can't study history without studying religion because it was so impactful and so a part of the cultures and everything. And to this day, I mean, I think it's over 66%, I think it might be more, of Americans are Christian. So even if you're not a Christian, I think you should study and learn. If you are in America, at least, you should study and understand the Christian religion, even if you don't believe it, right? Like, I think it's important for us to understand that. But even in that same token, I started hearing like it was too much. It wouldn't work for somebody who was secular, even though we're not secular-ish. I know it's weird. Just go with it. But I kind of got concerned about that as well. Now, as I said, I have now waylaid all of these fears. I have gotten rid of them. I am totally good now with all that because I have done more research on Charlotte Mason. I've done more research on Ambleside Online. I've come to it with new perspective and understanding. And now I see the beauty of Charlotte Mason and how it gives you such a rich and full education, and it gives you your child not just education, but it creates a better person, a whole person, somebody who is virtuous, somebody who is moral, someone who has good character, and who understands the world in a better way than, hopefully our forebearers. So long story short, when it came to, hi, you wrote all that? You did? Good job. All right, well, hey, I'm almost done with this video, okay? I love you. So long story short, talking about all those fears, number one, I have finally released the grip that the well-trained mind and that 4-year history cycle has on me. I have let it go. If you watched my recent video on the 4-year history cycle, you know about that. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's just me finally just letting go and, allowing myself to do what I want to do, which is Charlotte Mason. And then when it comes to my girls being in 2 separate years, I actually wrote it all out recently over the last couple of weeks. I've been doing some, planning and brainstorming. I wrote it all out and I figured out that we can easily do 2 separate years at the same time, but we're still going to combine, like we do all the enrichment studies together, which Ambleside Online recommends you do. I'm also going to combine them for poetry because it seems silly to read them separate poetry in my opinion. And then we kind of enjoy our little together time at morning time with our poetry. We're also going to do the Shakespeare rotations together. And so we're going to follow year 1 for that. Same with the poetry. We're going to follow, year 2, excuse me. We're going to follow year 2's rotation for Shakespeare and poetry next year. So combining those, and then also when I write it all out, it's really doable. It's actually probably less than what I'm doing right now, shockingly. On top of that, something I didn't really appreciate or understand is that as the kids get older in years, they're becoming more independent. And my oldest is a really solid reader right now. So next year, she'll be even better at reading, and she'll be able to, even though she'll be doing year 3, I'm going to still do a lot with her, but I know that I can always probably lean on her being able to do some of her readings by herself if we're running out of time. Or also something that I was afraid to, give into, but now I realize there is an appropriate time to use them. I'm okay with using audiobooks at this point with the girls. My youngest has a Yodo player, and my oldest has asked for one for Christmas, so that will definitely be coming down the pipeline. So they'll both have their own screen-free ability to do Audible. I'm going to still have them have the book because if we're doing an audiobook, I want them to follow along with it, if that makes sense, so that they can see the written word, not just hear it. So that I don't feel concerned about any longer. Next, I was concerned about the Eurocentric point of view, and I'm actually going to steal some words, not steal, but I'm going to quote some words from Ambleside Online's website, and I'm going to link the website down below because I think this hits the nail on the head perfectly. That made me feel better about this. So there is a section under their history tab, and it says, "Why not more world history?" And so they actually have quotes come in from some of the advisors, the women who have created Ambleside Online, about this. So one of them said, "I thought we needed a world history book too, until I read one and realized it was basically a disservice to everyone's history. People thought the book I was reading was better because it incorporated Asian and African history. However, then I realized there were a handful of short chapters on each, and I didn't feel like I knew any more about their history, really." This is the whole, what I would call, when you look at somebody who's doing world history, it's you're going an inch deep but a mile wide, and you're not really absorbing any one thing from that. There's just too much. World history is too big. It really is. And then what I think they're trying to do is more, let's bring it in a little bit closer. You still have a wide breadth of study, but you're going deeper. Your child's gonna really understand those topics and those periods of time. And it's better for you to understand your personal history and then the surrounding adjacent histories, ancient civilizations, things like that, than doing something obscure that doesn't connect to your child, especially in these younger years. Now, this is where I think Ambleside Online is a great resource, because you can easily bring in or swap out books if you really want to. Let's say you have Asian heritage, right? And you want your kiddo to understand their history. You can easily bring in those books and tie it in though, right? Whereas other programs are so written in stone and you have to follow the instructor guide that it'll be hard to kind of take a a left and do something different and add on a tangent history. So I absolutely appreciate their approach when it comes to it is a little bit more Euro focused, let's be honest, okay? But I also appreciate that I can easily bring in other resources if I want to. However, they do have quite a few resources that bring out different voices. I think it is quite a diverse group when you look at the entire book list as a whole. You are getting a lot of different diverse voices. It may not be diverse enough for some, and that's totally okay. We all got to do what's best for us. But for me, I think it's really good. And again, I can bring in extra resources where I feel needed if necessary. And last but not least, my concern about it being too religious or too doctrine focused, that was just me not researching enough and going far enough into the curriculum. It's really not. Yes, religion is there. It's history. There's history books galore, and religion is part of history. But it is not from a religious tone so much. There are individual books that are religious, but you know what? ChatGPT is a great resource to find other secular options that you can use in place of those books if you're not comfortable, if it doesn't meet your family's values or needs. So that really does not stress me out anymore. So where are we now, right? I scrapped Ambleside Online for this year, last March. I was concerned, and I had weird fears that were completely irrational, and I now see that, hindsight's 2020. Well, the beginning of this year, if you watched my update for August, you know that Story of the World, which I thought was going to be a hit because I think it is well written. I think it's a good book. It was a total flop. My kids did not resonate with it. They did not like the literature picks that I brought in from Build Your Library Level 1. They were just too mature and a little bit too scary for them. And it's not that history is going to be tough. There's going to be tough parts of history. We have talked about tough parts of history with Felicity, American Girl Unit, that we're doing right now about U.S. history. We've talked about slavery. But the way that the literature for Build Your Library was hitting it was a little bit too real for my kids. Like, they were putting themselves in that position too much, and it scared them. And so we needed to pull back on that. So we are not doing Story of the World anymore. I might still read it just for my own personal interest. However, as a blessing, I think we were doing a U.S. history stream alongside that using American Girl Little School of Smith's U.S. history curriculum. And so now we're just going to focus on a gentle introduction to U.S. history this year through American Girl, which is very Charlotte Mason, right? It is. You start with your own history, your own country's history. So that's what we're doing. And I feel like that's a good approach for us right now. But there are parts of me that regret not having done Ambleside Online year 1 with my youngest and Ambleside Online year 2 with my oldest this year. But I feel like it is too late to try and swap things up. I think my kids would get whiplash mentally. And they're just loving American Girl. So I don't want to take that away from them. So we're going to do American Girl U.S. history this year. What I'm trying to figure out is, what do we do moving forward? And I think I have a plan, but I just want to get some opinions from others, because there's also another change that we recently made, which this is a little bit of a spoiler for our September update. So we decided to try out Bookshark Language Arts this year, and we are loving the readers. My youngest is doing level 1, my oldest is doing level 3, and they are just really thoroughly enjoying the readers, the books. They're going so well. But the actual language arts program itself, I had initial fears about it being too regimented, to what I would call traditional public school, frankly. In the writing expectations, I think they are just unrealistic, and it's what kills the joy in writing for students. I thought I got over those, and I thought I was able to modify it in a way that worked, but honestly, no. My kids hate the spelling. They literally, my oldest and my youngest were like, can we stop doing this? This is terrible. And I was like, I don't want us to waste our time. I don't want it to feel like busy work. I want our language arts time to be intentional. So I was like, okay, we will drop the spelling. Well, then for my oldest, all that left was creative expression. And she likes what they call the diamond notes, but she doesn't like the fact that they're requiring her to write 3 different outlines for 3 different paragraphs, and then write those paragraphs, and then be 5 sentences long. Her little hand cramps up after the first 5 sentences of the first outline, let alone doing 3 of them plus 3 paragraphs. I'm like, this does not sit well with me. This is not how we homeschool. So I talked to her about it. We scrapped that and we are just doing oral narrations from the reading. Same with my youngest. We're just doing oral narrations from her readers, and that's the only thing we're doing from Bookshark. I mean, technically with my youngest, we're doing Explode the Code, but we're not even following the Bookshark schedule. We're just doing her own thing. She's working her way through book 3, and we're just keeping on. So what are we doing instead? We are going back to our roots of the McGuffey reader. We are using that as our primary, our main language arts, our spine. We were still doing it alongside Bookshark, but I was kind of doing it here and there. Now we are doing it 4 days a week, every week. It is our language arts, and it is going so well. And the girls are like, you could tell they're just so much happier, and their penmanship is getting better. I think when they have less to focus on, they're better, right? They're honed in on it. So I say that because I originally was thinking about doing Bookshark history because we like the books. The books are great, but they're like, my concern is one, it is pretty pricey. And I was like, well, maybe I can thrift some of these books. Like I'll buy the things from Bookshark that I have to, that I can't get anywhere else, like the instructor guide or the experiment guide or whatever. And that's fine. But then even still, when I thrifted the rest of the books, I was maybe saving myself $100. And I'm like, why is this so expensive? I don't know, because when I do Ambleside online, the books are like, I mean, and it's still a pretty hefty book list, and I still am not spending that much. I'm spending maybe a quarter of what I spent on Bookshark, and that's for 2 kids. So I don't know. That's a pretty tough pill for me to swallow, is the price, especially when I have 2 kiddos in school. I don't work. I have to be conscious of our budget, and I really like to thrift our books, and I do it over a year before the next school year so that I can make it work for our budget. Especially in this economy, we all got to kind of be careful about money right now. So that is a big deterrent for me from Bookshark. The other thing is that I'm concerned now, seeing how the language arts went, that I would feel too pigeonholed into what Bookshark wanted me to do, and I feel like it would feel too traditional school, even though it's literature based. It wouldn't be true Charlotte Mason. I'm sorry, my dogs are being wild. Give me 1 second. Hey. Okay, I let them out of the office. My girls are up, so they're gonna go play with them. My dogs are nuts, y'all. It's my fault. We have 2 high energy dogs. It's just who they are, and I love them so much. So long story short, my fear is that I would spend all this money on Bookshark, and then I would end up not feeling good about it because it's not really where my heart is calling to me to go, which is Charlotte Mason. And I've proven time and again in our own homeschool, when we do Charlotte Mason focused curriculum or methodologies, it works. So I feel like I need to move forward with Ambleside Online, and not just throw in a few things here and there. I feel like I need to just do it. I need to commit, trust the process, fall into Charlotte Mason Ambleside Online's arms, and let it take me away. So what I'm planning to do, and I kind of already started this week, and I want to get y'all's opinions on this. I am bringing in just the history spines for both of my girls for year 1 for my youngest and year 2 for my oldest this year. I'm doing it on top of what we're doing. It's just reading that we do in our core time, and it's really not a lot. I plan it all out. For my youngest, all it is Our Island Story, and it's 1 chapter every week to 2 weeks. That's it. I'm not going to bring in Viking Tales because we read a little bit of that this summer, so I feel like she's good there. I'm just going to do Our Island Story. And then my oldest, I'm going to bring in Our Island Story and Children's History of the World. And it's basically like 1 to 2 chapters a week. And then occasionally there's This Country of Ours. There's 5 chapters that you're supposed to read for year 2. And so it's not a lot, but that is a 3rd resource that we will be reading over this year. Volume 1. I got the Karen Breckenridge version. It's updated and it has a lot more information in it. It's really cool. So that's my plan, to kind of catch us up so that if we do, well, I'm like 95% sure we're going to do this. I'm like 99% sure we're going to do this. I just want to get y'all's opinions and takes on this, because I plan to then put my youngest daughter, who will be in 2nd grade next year. However, she is a very young 2nd grader. I was going to put her in year 2 next year. My oldest daughter is also a young, like they're both summer babies. She is also a young 3rd grader, will be in 4th grade next year. I have her a year behind. And I think that's actually perfect, because when you look at, I was thinking about putting her in year 4 next year, but there is a big jump between 3 and 4. So I think I want her to do 3 next year. And then with my youngest, if we get to that that period of time where we have to switch over to year 4, and I'm like, ooh, that's a little bit too much for you right now, because she's an end of August baby. She could theoretically be in kindergarten right now per my state laws, if that makes sense. But we're in first grade because that's where she's at. But if we get to year 4 and I'm like, ooh, that's a little bit too much, I'll just do year 3.5 with her and let her have a year to kind of mature a little bit more, and be able to process those books better when we do go into year 4 the next year. I have no qualms about that. If anybody has done year 3.5, please let me know what your experience was with it. Was it a good choice? Are you glad you did it? Because I don't know what I would do otherwise. I cannot put her in year 1 again, because this year and last year, we are basically doing a lot of year 1 books. Like, it would be way too repetitive for her. She would absolutely abhor it. I can just tell you that right now. And she'd be like, Mom, why are we doing this again? We already did this last year, or we did this last summer. You know what I mean? And I think she's totally ready to go into year 2. Or she will be. Obviously, this is a ways away. But so that is my plan, I think. Another thing I think I might do. So if you watch my update for August, you know that my oldest daughter's favorite subject is biology. We're doing elemental science biology. However, for me, it is not hitting the mark. And I think it's because, again, I'm really leaning into that Charlotte Mason philosophy and putting that Charlotte Mason lens on it. And it's reference books only. There's no living literature. It's really heavy-handed when it comes to worksheets. And I'm like really like dying inside every time we do a worksheet. I don't think scientific reports, lab reports are bad, but like, is that really necessary for 3rd grade? I don't know, probably not. So I actually talked to her about it this past weekend, and I was like, hey, what if because I was like, maybe we should just do nature study and have a nice year. And she was like, no, I love biology. And I was like, okay, but I really feel like we're starting to get into the animal unit. I think she's going to get bored with this eventually, but that's just my opinion. I'm going to let her ride that train. If she loves it, we'll keep doing it. It's good. But what I talked to her about was like, hey, instead of doing all the worksheets, what if we did notebooking? I was like, you know how we do notebooking and narrations and fun things for history, for American Girl history? What if they did that for science? And she was like, I love that idea, because this girl loves to draw. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get you. I got her an Amazon Basics XL sketchbook. It's the same one that I use for American Girl history. I'll link it down below if you're looking for one, because it's less than $8 and it is massive and it's 100 pages and it's perfect, because you can then paste in full pages. So I'm still using stuff like I cut out the poems. I printed off and cut out the poems that she likes to memorize from the student notebook. We pasted those in there, and it's big enough that we can do that, and she can still draw around it and write her own stuff, which is great. That's why I like the extra large sketchbook. But so we're doing that moving forward, and I think that's going to make it a lot more pleasant, at least for her, but if not for me, to teach it, because I feel like it's soul sucking every time I'm like, let's pull out this random thing. I mean, I love reference books, don't get me wrong. I love a DK book, but I don't want that to be the main spine. I want that to be a complement. And this is just, that's all it is. And it's science, I get that, but I also have now had my eyes open to the fact that Charlotte Mason science can be living. It can be a living narrative. And I'm like, I want to do that this year, but I don't want to fix what's not broken. God, I'm terrible at phrases, y'all. So I don't want to fix what's not broken, and I'm going to just let that be. But for next year, do I just lean in and just do Ambleside Online, nature study, natural history, their science essentially, because there's some really good books in there, and I think I want to do that because I'm very science minded. I just need somebody who's, you know, done this long enough where they can tell me it is a solid science program. Like, my kid is going to come out, and if they want to be a chemist, they can. If they want to be a doctor, they can. I love science, and my kids seem to also love it. So I just want to make sure that I'm not putting them at a disadvantage by only going towards living books. I will say next year we get into a drop of water with year 3, and that has experiments, because that's the thing, she likes the experiments and the activities. So I know there'll still be hands-on activities. My youngest is just riding along, having the best time doing the good and the beautiful little hearts and hands units that we're doing. We're still in the Field and Flowers unit right now, and then we'll move into Sparks and Stars and stuff. She likes it because, again, it's a gentle, there's narrative readings. I mean, it's not fully Charlotte Mason, let's be honest, but she likes it because it is that way, right? And she likes that occasionally there's a fun activity, and it might be a leaf rubbing, or it might be let's melt water, or melt an ice cube, which is a solid, and turn it into water, and then let it evaporate, which is a gas. It's those kind of things, right? It's fun stuff. So I think she would jive really well with a Charlotte Mason living narrative science as well. So I think for next year, I'm probably not going to have her do any other science except for the nature study, which is Burgess Animal Books for year 2. And the other thing I have a question on, because there are so many good free reads, y'all. Like, I'm literally looking at each year's list. I'm like, how are we going to read all these? Because I can't let any of them go. If you do Ambleside online, how do you get the free reads done? Like, do you schedule them in? I know you're not supposed to, but like, is that the way to do it? Like, or do you just not get them all done? I just don't know. So this was, again, kind of a rambly video. I hope that it made sense. I know some of you expressed in the comments, please like tell us your process. Don't just hit us with at the end, this is what I've decided to do. Like, you're like, bring us along through your brainstorming and like, you know, what you're thinking. And so this is that video for you guys, because I know some of you are probably in like similar situations where you're like, what do I want my homeschool to be when it grows up? I don't know. We're still trying to figure that out. And some of it is just a learning process that you have to go through yourself. Again, I regret not doing Ambleside online this year, but I also think that it's one of those things where you need to kiss a couple frogs to find your prince. I needed to do other curriculum to really solidify in my heart that Charlotte Mason, Ambleside online, that is the way for us in our homeschool. Again, I'm probably never going to be a purist, you know, because I also think there's a lot of negatives and disservices that happen when you say you're a purist. It's just not a world I want to live in. But I'm going to be pretty darn close to like, that's my jam, right? So if you guys have any advice, comments, questions, leave them down in the comments. If you are new to my channel and you want to see where this journey takes us, definitely hit that subscribe button so you can tag along. And if you did like the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.